Hi, Richard Foreman here again with episode 3 of the Dodgy Reg podcast. This time Richard becomes unsettled by a peculiar absence. An absence of Reg. The story is called Abducted. So here's the thing. I'm beginning to wonder if somehow I have offended Reg. OK, he seemed, if anything, quite reasonable last time I saw him, acknowledging that appearing at my door out of the blue on a regular basis was inconveniencing me and promising to ration his visits in future. Fine, I thought. That sounds about right. But I didn't want to stop him coming round altogether. It's been nearly a month since then. More significantly, perhaps, I'd called him out on his latest pet theory regarding high-level extraterrestrial influence on our current crop of political leaders. It seemed like he'd taken it in his stride at the time, but you never know with Reg. His mind takes odd twists and turns. For all I know, he could have me down for a cold-blooded reptiloid in human clothing these days, so I'd be right off his visiting list, wouldn't I? With a couple of hours to spare this afternoon, I've decided to do a switch on the out-of-the-blue thing and call on him. True, if challenged, I've not exactly worked out how I'm going to establish my status as a bona fide human being, but I'm hoping it won't come to that. He may be a scruffy, skinny guy with a slight personal hygiene problem and an obsession or two, but he's not a complete madman, as far as I know. I'm thinking about that as I walk up the high street. Do I actually have the right to make that kind of judgment about anyone? I'm a member of a species that appears to be destroying the very environment in which it lives for the sake of something called the economy. Am I not a party to this madness myself? And each person I pass on the pavement, the elderly lady with a shopping trolley and a fixed frown, the sashaying, track-suited Rasta with dreads escaping from his oversized tam, 3 young chattering Asian women in their dark but elegant headscarves, have they not brought into its who? Whatever the free will stories they might tell themselves. I take a left at the cash generator shop down an alley to the fire escape steps that lead up to the front door of Reg's flat, directly above the pawnbroker premises. He once told me when he lies awake at night, he can sometimes hear the cash being generated down below his bedroom floor. What kind of noise does that make then? I asked him, with a pronounced raise of the eyebrows. It hisses, man, he told me earnestly. Sometimes it clicks. I don't quite trust the rusting ironwork and hold the rail carefully, testing the gridded surface with each footstep. Presumably this sort of thing does get inspected for safety from time to time, but it's probably just a quick scan and a tick in a box. No one cares that much about the likes of Reg. I'd forgotten the long laminated list he keeps pinned to the front door. It starts conventionally enough with a refusal to admit hawkers or cold callers, as if they would hazard this particular entrance. But then goes on to include the press, politicians of any colour, religious proselytisers, secret service personnel of any nationality, warlocks, and jugglers. Jugglers? This was the first time I saw it. Why jugglers? You got to keep them on their toes. They won't be expecting that. Yeah, right, of course. And for just that moment, it had sounded like he was talking absolute sense. I pause long enough to reread it and ensure that I have not personally been added to the list, then thump the door a couple of times, since I know that for some arcane reason Reg has deactivated the doorbell. To my surprise, the door begins to swing freely open. There are, I know, enough locks, bolts and chains on the other side to hold off the Mongol hordes. This is truly unusual. "Reg," I venture. "Hey, Reg, you in there? It's me, Richard." I pause again, listen, no reply. I'm not quite sure what to do. Will I be intruding if I go in and look for him inside? Besides, I wouldn't put it past him to have set up some sort of booby trap and leaving the door unlocked in order to test it out. I nudge it open gently until I can see clearly into the little lobby where his overcoat hangs on a nail in the woodwork. Stiff, stained and slightly smelly, it is, as far as I know, the only overcoat he owns. He rarely goes out without it. "Reg," a little louder now. He should hear me if he's home. It's not a big place. He has a tiny galley kitchen and a not much larger bathroom, a bedroom, and a room in which he keeps most of his possessions in an unruly system of cardboard boxes and plastic storage containers. The flat has a stale smell. He will never open windows, fearing drones. I can see nothing that will fall upon me, fire at me, or open up beneath me, so I step in. I call again, still no response. One by one I check the rooms, only the box room taking more than a moment or two to scan thoroughly. Unless Reg has a concealed hidey hole somewhere, the place appears to be empty. Now I'm concerned. There's a near full packet of old Holborn, some ciggy papers and his Ronson on the scuffed little kitchen table, the coat in the lobby. It's not like him to be out of the place without these things, least of all leaving his front door unlocked. But how well do I know him anyway? I suppose I have, until now at least, considered him to be suffering from a mild form of mental illness. But such conditions can go in phases. What if he's entered a more severe one? He'd not thank me if I called the police, since he generally regards them as a form of uniformed demons. Besides, I don't know if I can qualify him as a missing person just yet. He could have just nipped out for a pint of milk. And I don't want to risk antagonising him by looking more carefully through his possessions, whatever clues they may or may not hold. There are no immediate neighbours who I can ask as to when he was last seen. I can think of nothing better to do than to scrawl a hasty note, leave it in the kitchen and make my exit. Hopefully, if I'm back later, some explanation will come to light. As I return to the high street, I attempt to remain calm. Above all, I must not start telling myself that Reg has been abducted by aliens to be subjected to strange biological procedures, taken away for interrogation and rendition by MI5, carried off on the shoulders of an urban Bigfoot, spontaneously combusted, or teleported into a parallel dimension. There will be an explanation for this, a logical, ordinary explanation. There will. As I pass the front of the cash generator's shop, I hear a faint, but to my ears quite distinct, low hiss from its vicinity. It is followed by a series of abrupt clicks. Next time, we discover that the reason for Reg's apparent absence is, it turns out, not for Richard's ears. And we also find out about the peculiar efficacy of charcoal tablets.